Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Most people are replaceable. Not because they lack talent. Not because they lack value. But because they have become common. Predictable. Dependent. Emotionally unstable. Easy to find. Easy to forget. And in a world where everyone is trying to be noticed. The rarest power is becoming unforgettable. Not loud. Not desperate. Not attention hungry. But deeply valuable. Silently powerful. The kind of person whose absence is felt. The kind of person people remember long after you leave the room. The kind of person they realize too late cannot be replaced. And here is the hard truth. Being irreplaceable has nothing to do with being perfect. It has everything to do with how you carry yourself. Your habits. Your standards. Your discipline. Your emotional control. Your silence. Because people may replace what entertains them. But they struggle to replace what grounds them. What strengthens them. What elevates them. And that is the kind of person you must become. Think about this. Why do some people lose you? And realize your value too late? Why do some employers regret letting certain people go? Why do some friendships feel empty after one person leaves? Because value is often invisible. Until it is absent. And Stoics understood something powerful. Your strength should not beg to be seen. It should be felt. That is power. The oak tree does not announce its strength. It stands. The mountain does not argue its worth. It remains. The ocean does not shout its depth. It simply is. And that is how powerful people move. Silently. Steadily. Unshaken. Today, we will uncover 7 Stoic habits that make a person irreplaceable. Not by chasing approval. But by building substance. Real substance. And stay until the final habit. Because it is the one most people never master. Yet it changes everything. And if you are committed to discipline, strength, and building an unshakable life, subscribe to the Stoic path. Because here, we build power in silence. And strength in discipline. Let's begin. Habit number 1, master emotional control. This is the foundation. Because emotional instability makes people predictable. And predictable weakness is easy to replace. But emotional control? That is rare. A man who controls anger is powerful. A woman who controls emotion under pressure is powerful. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. But what about when life cuts deep? When betrayal happens? When disappointment arrives? When things fall apart? That is where character is exposed. There was once a blacksmith. Strong hands. Strong body. But stronger mind. One day, a customer insulted him publicly. Mocked his work. Tried to humiliate him. Everyone waited for the blacksmith to explode. But he simply smiled. And continued working. Later someone asked. Why didn't you react? He replied. If I lose control of myself, I lose more than the argument. That is Stoic power. Control. Because the world expects reaction. Calm unsettles people. And calm commands respect. People remember those who remain composed. Because composure is strength. And strength is difficult to replace. Habit number 2, become reliable. This habit is deeply underestimated. Talent is useful. Reliability is priceless. A talented person who disappears under pressure. Replaceable. A talented person who is inconsistent. Replaceable. But the one who shows up every time, with discipline, becomes rare. There was once a worker in a small village. Not the smartest. Not the strongest. But every day. He arrived early. Worked honestly. Finished what he started. And when crisis came, he was the one everyone trusted. Not because of talent. Because of reliability. And reliability builds trust. Trust builds value. Value builds irreplaceability. People remember consistency. Not excuses. A Stoic does what must be done. Regardless of mood. That makes you dangerous. Because most people are ruled by feelings. But disciplined people are ruled by principles. And principles create consistency. Be the person who keeps their word. Even when it hurts. Even when it's hard. Because integrity makes you unforgettable. Habit number 3, speak less, mean more. Powerful people do not waste words. They speak carefully. Intentionally. Clearly. And because of that, their words carry weight. There was once an old philosopher who spoke very little. People traveled far just to hear him. One day, a young man asked, "How did your words become so powerful?" The philosopher replied, "By learning when not to use them. That is wisdom. Words lose power when overused. Silence sharpens speech. And silence sharpens presence. A person who speaks endlessly becomes background noise. But the one who speaks with precision becomes memorable. Respect grows around measured speech. Because restraint reveals discipline. And discipline is rare. A Stoic knows. Not every thought deserves a voice. Not every conflict deserves a response. Not every insult deserves attention. Silence protects power. And protected power becomes difficult to replace. Habit number 4, build yourself in private. Most people want visible success. But they avoid invisible work. And that is why they remain ordinary. What makes you irreplaceable is what you do when nobody sees. The reading. The discipline. The training. The healing. The growth. Private work creates public strength. There was once a young warrior who trained at dawn. Alone. No audience. No praise. No applause. Years later, when battle came, people called him gifted. But it was not gift. It was private discipline. That's how life works. People see the result. They rarely see the sacrifice. A Stoic builds in silence. Not for applause. For mastery. And mastery makes replacement difficult. Now understand this. By now, you may be realizing something. Being irreplaceable is not about making people need you. It is about becoming so grounded in your value that your presence changes environments. Only his belief made it strong. That is many people. Trapped in disrespect. Not by force. By fear. Fear of loss. Fear of loneliness. Fear of change. But freedom begins where fear ends. Walking away is not weakness. It is often the highest form of strength. A man stayed in a friendship where he was constantly mocked. Disrespected. Dismissed. He laughed it off. Pretended it didn't matter. But inside, it wounded him. One day, he left. Quietly. No speech. No fight. No explanation. Months later, his peace returned. His confidence returned. His power returned. Because sometimes peace is waiting on the other side of departure. And departure reveals value. This is something important. Absence reveals worth. People often understand your value when you are gone. Not because you changed. Because silence exposed what your presence carried. The warmth. The discipline. The loyalty. The calm. That is why you never force your value. Live it. If they see it, good. If they don't, leave. A diamond does not beg to be recognized. Its value remains. That is Stoic thinking. Know your worth. Without demanding recognition. And here is the truth. Being irreplaceable is not about making people regret losing you. It is about living in a way that honors yourself. That naturally creates value. Naturally creates respect. Naturally creates presence. People feel when someone has standards. They feel when someone has peace. They feel when someone has discipline. That feeling stays. That feeling becomes memory. And memory builds legacy. There was once an old emperor who had many servants. Most obeyed from fear. But one servant stood out. Quiet. Reliable. Wise. Strong. When the servant left, the emperor said, "I had many workers. But only one presence. That is what you should become. Not just useful. Memorable. Not just present. Valuable. Not loud. Strong. And strength is silent. Always remember. The strongest tree does not chase attention. It grows roots. Deep roots. Roots no storm can shake. That is your work. Grow roots. Emotional control. Reliability. Silence. Private discipline. Peace. Independence. Standards. These 7 habits create unshakable value. And unshakable value becomes irreplaceable. So from today, build yourself. Quietly. Steadily. Relentlessly. Not to prove yourself. To become yourself. And if this message strengthened you, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because here, we build silent strength. Stoic discipline. And the kind of presence the world cannot ignore. Remember. The goal is not to be needed. The goal is to be so grounded in who you are, that your absence is felt. That is power. That is stoicism. That is becoming the person they can't replace. Now let's go deeper. Because by now, you may be asking, what truly makes a person unforgettable? Is it talent? No. Talent is common. Is it beauty? No. Beauty fades. Is it status? No. Status changes. What makes a person unforgettable is the way they make life feel around them. Their presence. Their stability. Their discipline. Their silence. Their standards. Because people forget appearances. But they remember how your presence affected their peace. A Stoic understands this deeply. Value is not performance. Value is substance. And substance is built quietly. A candle does not scream to prove it carries light. It simply shines. That is your work. To become so grounded in yourself, that your energy speaks before your words. And energy never lies. People can fake charm. Fake confidence. Fake kindness. But they cannot fake peace for long. Because peace comes from discipline. And discipline leaves traces. In your eyes. In your posture. In your speech. In your decisions. Everything reveals itself. There was once an old carpenter. He built houses for decades. Simple man. Quiet man. Disciplined man. When he died, the village mourned deeply. Not because he was rich. Not because he was famous. But because he was solid. Reliable. Steady. And when solid people leave, The emptiness feels different. That is what you should aim for. Not attention. Wait. Wait in your character. Wait in your words. Wait in your standards. That wait creates memory. And memory creates irreplaceability. Let me tell you a dangerous truth. People only replace what is easy to replace. Easy attention. Easy affection. Easy loyalty. Easy energy. That is why becoming scarce in quality matters. Not playing games. But becoming rare. Rare in discipline. Rare in honesty. Rare in emotional maturity. Rare in loyalty. Because rare things are protected. And protected things are respected. A river is powerful not because it shouts. But because it keeps moving. Steady. Focused. Persistent. That is Stoic power. Not dramatic. Consistent. There is a story of a young man who wanted to be respected. He asked an old monk, "How do I make people value me?" The monk took him to a lake. Dropped a stone into the water. And said, "Watch." The stone sank. Quietly. Without announcement. The monk said, "Depth never needs noise." That is the lesson. Shallow people seek constant attention. Deep people build silent gravity. And gravity pulls respect. People feel depth. In your calm. In your listening. In your discipline. And discipline creates something powerful. Predictable strength. People trust what feels stable. A stormy person creates uncertainty. A grounded person creates safety. And safety creates attachment. That's why some people are impossible to replace. Because their presence brought peace. And peace is rare. Think about this. Who do people run to in chaos? The loudest person? No. The calmest person. The clearest person. The strongest person. And strength is often silent. That is why silence is one of the highest forms of power. Silence forces observation. Observation sharpens wisdom. Wisdom sharpens decisions. And decisions shape destiny. Most people speak to be seen. But powerful people observe first. Because observation reveals truth. A hunter does not rush through the forest making noise. He studies. Waits. Moves carefully. That patience creates success. Life works the same way. Observe people. Observe energy. Observe patterns. Because patterns reveal truth faster than words ever will. Someone can say they respect you. But patterns reveal whether they do. Someone can say they love you. Patterns reveal whether they do. Someone can promise loyalty. Patterns reveal whether they do. Trust patterns. Not promises. That wisdom protects your energy. And protected energy builds strength. There was once a man who kept giving his loyalty to people who used him. He called it kindness. But it was not kindness. It was lack of boundaries. One day an old woman told him, "Loyalty without wisdom becomes self-destruction." That changed him. Because boundaries protect value. Without boundaries, people consume you. With boundaries, people respect you. And respect is part of irreplaceability. Now hear this. Do not make yourself too available. Availability is good. Over-availability weakens value. Not because being present is wrong. But because unlimited access reduces appreciation. A wise person knows when to be present. And when to pull back. The sun sets every day. And because it leaves, its return is valued. Presence and absence work together. Healthy absence builds appreciation. Constant availability builds familiarity. And familiarity without value breeds neglect. That is why Stoics protect their time. Protect their energy. Protect their space. Not out of pride. Out of wisdom. Your time is life. And life should not be handed out carelessly. Ask yourself. Who deserves access to me? Who strengthens me? Who drains me? Who respects me? Who uses me? Because clarity protects power. And power protects peace. Another deep truth. Your standards decide your worth. Not your words. Your standards. What you tolerate. What you accept. What you walk away from. These things reveal self-worth. A king once had a golden cup. One day a servant used it carelessly. The king removed it immediately. Not because of anger. Because value must be handled carefully. That includes you. You are valuable. And if someone handles you carelessly, distance is wisdom. Not revenge. Wisdom. Stoicism teaches detachment. Not coldness. Clarity. Clarity that says, I value myself enough to leave what weakens me. That is power. And power attracts respect. Remember. The tree with the deepest roots fears no wind. Root yourself. In discipline. In peace. In standards. In emotional control. In solitude. Because solitude builds clarity. Many fear solitude. But solitude sharpens identity. It teaches you who you are. Without noise. Without influence. Without performance. There was once a warrior who spent months alone in the mountains. When he returned, people said he felt different. Calmer. Sharper. Stronger. Why? Because solitude had refined him. Silence had taught him. And silence teaches what noise never can. Spend time alone. Not to isolate. To understand yourself. Because self-knowledge creates unshakable power. And unshakable power creates irreplaceable presence. So remember. Be calm. Be disciplined. Be reliable. Be rare. Be observant. Be boundaried. Be grounded. Not for applause. For mastery. And mastery changes everything. If this message strengthened your mind, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because here, we do not chase the world. We build ourselves. Quietly. Powerfully. Relentlessly. And remember. The world may replace what is common. But it struggles to replace what is rare. Become rare.